Welcome to the great city of Bangkok, Thailand. Amazing food, friendly people, shopping, and traffic. Lots of it. The city of Bangkok has an unusually high number of vehicles. In 1980, there were just over 500,000 vehicles in the city. Now, there are over 9.7 million vehicles in Bangkok and 14 million people in the metropolitan area. Roughly speaking, that's a vehicle ownership rate of 69%. Bangkok is well above its vehicle capacity and the number of cars keeps increasing each year. But Bangkok has the BTS, and I always thought that cities with good public transportation wouldn't have the problem of extreme traffic. I think most big cities will have some traffic because of the sheer population, but Tokyo has a vehicle ownership rate of about 23% and Seoul is at 50%. Now, when there's bumper-to-bumper traffic and you're sitting in place watching people walk past your car, that's the kind of traffic that would make me say, no way I'm driving, especially when public transportation is an option. So why do so many people drive here? Okay, so in most cities in America, it still makes sense to drive because cities are extremely sprawled out. The nearest grocery store might be a 30-minute walk but a 5-minute drive, and the nearest convenience store might be a 20-minute walk or a 3-minute drive. The sad fact is that a large number of American cities lack a key component of what makes cities walkable, and that's mixed uses. This means that yes, driving is the far more convenient option, and I hate to say it, but it's the more logical option too. But Bangkok has mixed uses. Just pick a street in the city and you'll probably find a food cart, a 7-Eleven, a bank, and a clothing store. So in fact, if you're looking for food or a cafe or some shopping, you can find somewhere within a 5-minute walk. In fact, if we look at Bangkok in the context of Jane Jacobs' conditions for a diverse city, Bangkok has them all. Mixed uses, aged buildings, high density, and short enough blocks. But there's still traffic because Bangkok is a huge city with a population of roughly 10.7 million people in the urban core and a density of 5,294 people per square kilometer. Combine this with an abnormally high car ownership rate and narrow streets and you get this. This is to be expected in a crowded city with no public transport, but Bangkok has public transportation and a pretty decent system at that. Or so I thought, but let's dive into that. Compared to my city, where the only public transportation is the bus, Bangkok's transportation system seems years ahead. While it's not yet at the level of a city like Tokyo, they still have the BTS SkyTrain, the MRT subway, buses, and boat taxis. The first time I visited Bangkok, I stayed really close to a BTS station, and I had no problems getting around by public transport. And I couldn't really understand why there was still so much traffic. Why don't most people just take the BTS? So let's think about this. People will use public transportation if 1, it's considerably cheaper than driving, and 2, it's more convenient. That means it'll take a shorter or equal amount of time, doesn't require too many connections, and doesn't require too much walking. So here lies the problem. First, let's talk about cost. Cities like Singapore have made it incredibly expensive to drive cars by tacking on additional fees and taxes. Other cities have expensive parking or city entry tolls that deter people from driving. Expensive fuel prices in other countries might be a minor deterrent to driving, but the fact is it's cheap to drive in Bangkok. There aren't any expensive parking fees if any, and fuel is a lot cheaper in Thailand than in other parts of the world. So if someone can obtain a car either through purchasing it or maybe a company car, there's not much cost-wise that would make someone stop to think twice about driving. What about time and convenience? I said earlier that I thought the BTS worked well for me to get most places in the metropolitan area in a reasonable amount of time, but that was because I was staying near a station. Here's the map of Bangkok. The BTS covers the main arterial, which is quite convenient if you live and work along the line, but it's not quite as useful out here. Now the MRT covers this area, but when combined, you can see that Bangkok actually has large areas without access to public transportation. Are there buses to cover this area? Yes, but there are no dedicated bus lanes, so the buses get stuck in traffic just like everyone else. And the buses are slightly less user-friendly than the BTS. It was explained to me that to get to homes in the more suburban areas, you might have to take the BTS, a rural bus, and then a motorcycle taxi, and this isn't even in the countryside. So although they may be able to walk for food and basic shopping, to get to work or a specific destination, it's easier to drive. This is called the first mile, last mile problem, and it refers to the fact that a train might get you into the general vicinity of your destination, but if you still have to walk more than 15-20 minutes to get to your end destination, the convenience of public transport decreases significantly. So clearly, although the public transportation is there, it's not yet extremely successful in bringing people close enough to their destinations. This is not to rag on Bangkok's transportation, as I said, it's better than anything my city has. But there's something called the network effect that typically refers to things like social media being more valuable as more people use it. For example, if you have Instagram but none of your friends use it, it's not very useful at all. I think a similar concept can be applied to transportation networks, where the more stops you add, the more the network as a whole benefits. Why is this important? Well, because other cities around the world are starting to understand the importance of public transportation. But to have a transportation system for the sake of having a transportation system is as good as not having one altogether. How effective is it really to build a multi-billion-dollar rail with no plans for expansion when people still need to drive to the stops or transfer multiple times? Cities want to add trains or light rails, but they don't want the hassle and cost of going through populated areas of cities, so they add stops in the suburbs outside of the city center. Well, if I have to drive to get to a station, I may as well drive the whole way. Just something to think about, because why spend billions on a transportation system that no one's going to use? I guess the message is, when it comes to public transportation, go big or go home. If you're going to spend a ton of money on a rail or metro, it better be useful or have a well thought out expansion plan. Otherwise, let's not forget that buses are a valuable and flexible means of transport as well, and they don't cost nearly as much. As for Bangkok, I have hope that the traffic will get better as they expand their transportation network. As much as I know that this scene is quintessential Southeast Asia, Bangkok does face some serious air pollution and would benefit from some reduction in traffic. Like many other cities are doing, Bangkok could start to remove minimum parking zoning requirements and add peak congestion pricing. They could build out their boat taxi network, which would be something pretty unique to Thailand, and they could upgrade their buses to work with the BTS cards and perhaps upgrade their buses in general. I would say add dedicated bus lanes, but I'm not sure how well that would work currently with all the motorcycles and tuk-tuks. Finally, I doubt that it's financially better to own a car in Bangkok. Rather, I know that it's become somewhat of a status symbol, so just keep in mind that a wise man once said, "A developed country is not a place where the poor have cars, it's where the rich use public transportation." A quote probably by Gustavo Petro, mayor of Bogota. Well, this has been a high-level dive into Bangkok's traffic situation. Thanks for watching me attempt to dissect the random thoughts I have while on vacation. Curious to hear your comments and thoughts below.